is the administration that got elected to purge the deep state actually using the deep state to compile a list of data on all the people that live here? This shadowy company Palantir that works with the CIA and the military. If you don't have any reservations about Palantir taking everyone's information, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust you. I think they're buying people left and right. This is my guess. They try to buy me. My it costs a lot of money.
Comedian Tim Dillon alleged that Palantir, the data analysis firm with ties to Elon Musk and tech mogul Peter Thiel, is essentially trying to buy public figures to give them positive press, to make them pro-Palantir propagandists. And you want to know something? I give Tim Dillon so much credit for disclosing that to the public. I also give him credit for calling it like he sees it. He's been pretty good on his commentary in regard to what's going down in Gaza. He's been critical of the Trump administration when they deserve it. I don't agree with him on everything, but his podcast is among my favorites these days. Anyway, before I give you more, Waz, just want to get some initial thoughts from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are issues with the rise of new media, with even guys that you would consider conservative influencers. However, they are definitely more independent than, say, a Sean Hannity.
Yep.
Or Bill O'Reilly back in the days, or anybody that you would get on Fox, or even like hate radio. Like those guys would never go against a Trump administration, a Republican administration as readily and as willingly as these right-wing influencer comedian types are willing to do. Like these, say what you want, like when a big person comes on the platform and they kind of softball the questions. That being said, man, these people are more willing to say what they think than most other right-wing commentators.
Yeah, I think your analysis is spot on, right? And look, I'll give you another example of, some areas in which some of these podcasters do fall short because they're not political analysts. So they're not necessarily equipped with the information to debate someone who's on their show spreading lies or trying to, like in the case of JD Vance, who was recently on Theo Von's podcast. Look, Theo Von isn't some like expert on what's happening in Gaza, but he's a human being who has seen the atrocities committed by the IDF in the Gaza Strip and felt the need to speak out about it. He says this looks like a genocide. He had JD Vance on recently and brought up this issue, and JD Vance tried to placate him. I don't know if it worked, but I noticed that, Theo Von didn't have the tools in his toolbox to like refute what JD Vance was saying. But nonetheless, his heart is in the right place. So I give him a lot of credit. And the fact that he's saying what he actually thinks without concern about placating or appeasing a political party or a political side, I think is more valuable than having like the Sean Hannitys who always run cover for Donald Trump or whatever the right wing is up to. Okay, so what was Dillon talking about there? Well, he was responding to a story that we actually covered last week about how Donald Trump's administration is essentially tapping Palantir to compile Americans' personal information into this database. And by the way, right now with the riots that are taking place in Los Angeles, it's totally playing into Donald Trump's hand because that type of civil unrest is exactly what the Trump administration will point to as a justification for increased surveillance of American citizens. And so just be aware of that. Let me give you more. So the plan is a result of an executive order that Trump had signed back in March, calling for the federal government to share data across agencies, which naturally has raised some concerns about the federal government's surveillance power. Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, denies that the program has anything to do with surveillance, even though surveillance is part of what Palantir does. But even some in the MAGA camp are not buying it. In fact, I've seen some of them be very vocal against this. They're furious with Trump and the fact that he's carrying out this plan that seems to go against everything he claimed to be, be for. And now Tim Dillon is giving us a little more insight into the manipulative behavior Palantir and tech companies like Palantir, who try to get people with platforms, like basically they try to get people with big platforms to cover them in a more favorable light. So without further ado, let's watch what Tim Dillon has to say about that.
I get invited to these dinners, I don't go. I've been invited to Thiel's house multiple times for dinner, I don't go. It's no shade at them or whatever, The reason I don't go is I remember one dinner, they're like, we'd like to discuss the media. I go, what? No thanks. Here's what I'm doing every week. I'm discussing the media. Hey, good news, I have a show. You can listen to it. You can listen to it if you're curious about it. But I've been to some of these places. I've sat in these houses in Austin with these tech people. And I know what they want. And I know what they want me to go out and cheerlead for and say, well, it's actually a great idea. And there's probably a lot of money in it. There's probably a lot of money. And I just can't do it.
I love the fact that he disclosed this, and big shout out to Tim Dillon for being unwilling to be bought by any, moneyed interest. In this case, seems like he's making clear that it's Palantir. But I just want to go to one more video before I go to you, Waz, because look, the good news is that Dillon agrees mainstream media is close to dead, but there is bad news. And that bad news is that you're about to see independent media get bought just based on his personal experience and what you're about to hear him say.
This is the new way. It used to be the news media, but I've been doing interviews with the news media. It doesn't even work. Who the left in the news media? These people are broke. Anyone with a half a degree of talent is on YouTube. I mean, these people are beyond. No one's even buying them anymore. They're going to start buying up podcasters and YouTubers and whatever.
I think that's totally true. And I'm sure that had already started years prior to Tim Dillon drawing attention to it. I could name some names, but I'll toss over to you, Waz.
Bro, you think the Israelis haven't already started on many of our least favorite right-wing podcasters? Are you kidding me?
Simple.
That's already happening. I'm sure the Saudis have a program. I'm sure, it's not like the Israelis are alone. I'm sure the Emiratis and the Qataris, I'm sure all of these countries that want to curry favor amongst the population in America are going to put their hats in the ring. And that's kind of why it's like independent media is not going to save us, right? Whereas with mainstream media, where they're so beholden to their sponsors, like the pharmaceutical companies and all these other, moneyed interests that pay the bills via buying commercials with these news platforms. Independent media is no different. These guys are, advertising-based revenues, right? And so if you are wholly dependent on your advertisement in order to survive, yeah, man, some people gonna come along and be like, look, we could up your ad money, but you gotta toe the company line. It's no different. And there will be some independent voices out there in the wilderness, but I think the thing with the tech people specifically, and I keep saying this over and over, like the tech oligarchs, masters of the universe types, they're repulsive. They are the most ghoulish, antisocial people on planet Earth. They don't like people.
That's why they want to go to Mars.
They hate people, and like that's why like the Elon Musk thing has failed so miserably. It's like in politics, you actually have to get people to like you.
Yeah.
And like, bruh, I'm sorry, 9 out of 10 of these gajillionaires, the more people get to know them, the more they're gonna be like, these people are quacks and cranks, and we need to get them the hell away from our lives and have them have as little influence as possible. Why do you think Mark Zuckerberg, going on this relentless media tour, rocking gold chains and changing up his outfits? He thinks this is going to give him a more broad appeal. But whenever he opens his mouth, everybody knows he's full of crap. Everybody knows he was just woke when Biden got elected, and now he's hardcore, high T, I fight people and all of that stuff. Now, nobody's buying this crap because you people are weird. You're strange, you're dorks, nobody likes you. And it's because you guys are antisocial as hell. And it's disgusting, and we're repulsed by all of you.
I mean, where's the lie? Everything you said is true. And, the thing to keep in mind is these people, they don't have principles or values at their foundation, right? Like they're not driven by what they feel are their ethics or morality. They're driven by what's best for their business and what they can do to maximize their own influence, their own power, and their own profits. Period. End of story. Like they don't care about the Democratic Party. They don't care about the Republican Party either. They're trying to maneuver in a way in which they can use the political system to their advantage. And so far, and this isn't new, this has been going on for decades, it worked. It's working on their behalf. And it's important for Americans across the political spectrum to be aware of that. Because when you have tech companies essentially plotting to get these massive government contracts to do mass surveillance on American citizens, we've got a problem. And that shouldn't be a partisan issue. So if there is common ground among Trump voters and us on the left in regard to wanting to push back against this surveillance that will be done by Palantir on American citizens, we should work together and push back against it. And look, again, I say this all the time on the show, people hate it, but I don't care. There are areas where there is agreement. And if we keep allowing the elite, if we keep allowing those in positions of power to divide and conquer us, well, our quality of life will continue being diminished. And I'm sick of that. I just want to win on something to make life better for all of us. So if we can work together in some of these, narrow areas, we should work together. We'll see if that happens. But for now, it looks like Palantir is poised to do mass surveillance on American citizens at the behest of the Trump administration. And we should be worried about that.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.